I'm Shane Nyland, and my co host is Blake Musser. And these stories you're about to hear are from Weapons Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, 1st Marine Division, about the events surrounding and directly from the mouths of the people who were in Ramadi 2004. This is part 2 with Mike Hanson of Sledgehammer Platoon. I don't know if you remember, but the guys from First Recon, they came into Hurricane Point a couple of times, and that was part of their whole mission, was stopping the mortar. All the
Okay, yeah.
the ecosystem of mortars that was traded between us and Fallujah. And so McAuliffe, that used to be in our company, who used to be a machine gunner in my platoon, in Cat Platoon,
Yeah.
he went to recon and he would tell us, he's like, well, we haven't got anybody. Like, he's like, we've tried a lot and we've had other things that we did, but as far as stopping the incoming fire, he's like, we're just not catching them.
Yeah.
So
I remember we were out on a patrol one time and we found a whole buried batch of like anti-aircraft artillery off the side of the woods, in the woods. And it filled up like the back of like 2 Humvees. And that stuff was so heavy, those Humvees were like dragging those rounds. And because they were like, I think they were called like iridium tipped or something like that. But they're basically, they had these little plastic pieces on the end of them because they're basically for like anti-aircraft type. But I think they were like 20 millimeter or something like that, just huge rounds. And there was tons of those that we found. Just somebody saw something that looked like somebody had like been off the side of the road or like a track or something like that. It looked like, and we just really stopped and sent a quick patrol out there, and they found it pretty quick. Like just randomly on the side of the road, just a ton of it, which was crazy.
Glad they didn't figure out how to fire it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on the north. It was like in the Sofia district. Like we were even further out than that, I think. We're out on Route Nova, up past Apple. And like you said, actually, the half memory that I have of it is that it was even less than that. I thought it was somebody like went to go take a piss and was like, this looks weird. It wasn't even that.
Yeah, because it was something, but for some reason we stopped
Completely random.
And somebody looked, and then it was kind of buried in just some like long grass or bushes or something like that. And because they were in
palm tree grove. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they were in big ammo cans basically. And we backed up one of the Humvees and just loaded them all up and then brought them and then probably blew them up in the demo pit basically. I'm not sure what exactly they did with them, but
yeah,
that's I heard was going to be their fate.
Hard to say. I mean, half that shit we captured, sometimes we threw it in the river, sometimes we burned it, sometimes we had people demo it, sometimes we turned it into the army and they demoed it. Yeah. Sometimes we turned it over to the Iraqi police, although I don't think we would have done that with anti-aircraft rounds, but we did take AK ammo and shit over to them. Like, hey, this stuff looks good. You guys want it? And they'd be like, oh yeah, we need training rounds. Like, okay, well, I don't know if we're supplying the enemy, but here you go. Here's 50 cases of AK rounds we drug out of a house.
Yeah. And there was a couple times when we come back and just find huge batches of like AKs and stuff like that and rifles and stuff like that too. I got a whole bunch of pictures of them just laid out in front of our hooches and stuff from some of the patrols where we go through. And I don't remember exactly where those ones came, but I remember there's one that came in. There was about 50 guns that they had that they found somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like you guys drug out a lot more of those big weapons caches because you guys went into houses and just had a lot of stuff. So, but I remember coming over and taking pictures with the weapons because it was fun. But
yeah, there were some cool ones.
Yeah. My favorite was always digging through those weapons caches and trying to find the most like old rare stuff. Like there's like World War I and World War II. And like, wow, they still have this and it's still functional.
Yeah, like how is this here?
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, that was like one of the crazy ones. But yeah, let me see. Um, Trying to think if there was anything else. Oh, I remember one time. Yeah, getting back to when we were on posts on the wall. When we were taking those rockets, there was one time when one of those rockets literally went like right over us on the wall there, and I was up there. I think it was with Venecia, and is it him or someone else? But we didn't even know. But and he ended up getting hit with like a round, like while we were up there, like on his back. And
Yeah.
we noticed it while we were there. And we're like, wait a second, there's a hole in your flak jack. And there was literally like a round. They think it was one that just kind of came from quite a ways away because it didn't go through. It pretty much just got stuck and didn't hardly even do anything to it. But I think because it hit the sappy plate.
That ended up being that was Escalante, and the only reason why
Escalante, that's who
yeah,
it was. Yeah.
the only reason why I know is because he came and told us that same story. I had never heard it before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Because it was me. It was me and him up there, and maybe someone else. But yeah, we were both up there, and just looked, and I was like, "Oh my god, you!" Oh. It was either me or somebody. Said you got a hole in your flak jacket. We were able to literally like fish out the round. Yeah, that was crazy.
yeah. He said he felt like somebody just slapped him in the back, and then you guys were like digging around and found the bullet. Yeah, that's a crazy story.
Yeah. But yeah, it was always interesting. Seeing the watch, like being up on that watch, like you were never sure if someone was going to try because we were completely open up there. We had some netting and some sandbags that we'd built up around, so we tried to kind of keep down, but we also had to keep a lookout for everything that was going on. And then there was a time. Oh, I remember one of the biggest ones. Did you hear when all the snipers got hit out in town?
Yes.
And in the areas. We had to go to like 3 or 4 different areas on a patrol and like pick them up after they all got hit. Kind of, it seemed like almost a coordinated thing. Um, so we always had that in the back of our mind too, that you could get either sniped or that we were being watched and could have been shot at the same up there
Sure.
because it was just completely. It was pretty exposed right over the riverbanks and over the bridge.
Yeah,
I was always surprised it didn't get hit hard. I mean, that always fascinated me that
yep.
they decided never to. I mean,
I was
your
Whenever I
asses
was
were in
up
the
there, I always
wind.
felt like it could have because it was completely like exposed. Um, Other than there was some big like I think there were some big like generators for the bridge because it was like
Yeah.
a central power station basically. The things and we'd watch kids like swimming in the river and stuff like that. So everything was pretty exposed up there. But
That's funny. I was just going
yeah,
to ask
luckily I don't
you.
think anything other seriously happened up there other than that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you what other weird stuff did you see from up on those posts? I mean, because you get to see like a small snapshot of civilian life too, right? It wasn't all like
Oh
combat.
yeah. Yeah, well, I would pay attention. They're terrible drivers, and they would get in fights in the streets down there because they there weren't any really rules, but somebody would piss somebody off, and they'd get out and they'd be screaming at each other like in the middle of the road and stop traffic. So we'd sit and watch the road rage that would ensue on that bridge because there was always somebody pissing somebody off.
Nice. Better than pay per
And
view.
then yeah, yeah, exactly. And then you kind of would see like you get in a routine also of seeing like when everybody was like coming into town in the mornings because everybody would come in because there were shops that they would set up
Hmm.
with all their like animals and stuff like that. Like people sell goats and sheep and all kinds of stuff. So you'd see the trucks and all the people with their like goods coming in to set up their shops in the morning because it'd be nothing, completely bare, and then almost like clockwork at a certain time, you'd see all the trucks coming into town from the different like residential areas where they're gonna sell their goods for the day, and then it would just be busy cars nonstop, like all day long.
Yeah, I don't know that very many people fully appreciated what Ramadi was at the time, being the provincial capital. And that, I mean, you made a good point. There were plenty of people who lived in Ramadi and ran shops, but there were plenty of people who lived in far other towns, but they commuted
Yeah.
to Ramadi to come work and sell,
Yeah.
whatever they sold, electronics or whatever they sold. And then on top of that, it was the only, at least according to the farmers that we talked to, it was the only full scale farm market where commercial buyers came and bought like goods, like they would buy sheep or they would buy meat, buy vegetables, buy whatever. And that's where they did it, was downtown in that damn giant crazy ass marketplace. And
or ice. We'd see this truck come with a big giant block of ice.
yeah.
And they'd chip off the ice or cut off ice blocks.
They saw it with chainsaws.
Yeah.
We watched them do it with chainsaws. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember seeing those big trucks come, just giant blocks of ice. I'm like, where do they get these big blocks of ice from?
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting stuff like that. Just watching the people come and go. And sometimes like kids that come and talk to us like, hey. And they'd kind of yell up a little bit and people would say, wave at us and stuff like that. So there was that type of stuff where you be kind of trying to watch out over like the river, because we had a clear view of like all like the river banks and stuff like that.
Sure.
And just keep a lookout for anything and we also had a feeling in our mind that someone could drive up with a VBIED or something like that. So we were always kind of just on lookout for stuff like that. So
you kind of mentioned a couple of the raids. Did you ever go inside houses or anything on any of the missions? Did you do any door kicks?
Yeah, there was a couple houses like that I went in with on raids. It was always there. Everywhere I went, it seemed like there was always really clean. Whenever we went in there, I didn't go in a lot of them, but we go in and just kind of whole perimeter for people, and there'd be people going through just all the couches, the cushions, the drawers, dressers, things like that. So I wasn't one of the people going through, but I was there more for like security, because we did do a lot of like night raids where they'd go and kick open the doors, and we'd have certain things where they thought, because at the time there was there's a lot of intel that we would be getting that certain like warlords were in the area or something like that, or Baathists that were loyal to Saddam. And so we'd always be getting like a thing like, say, hey, we got intel that they were there. And most of the time they never were, but you'd go and knock over the gates. And some of the gates, some were pretty nice when you went in there and you were like, oh, they have a bunch of people that live here. And sometimes it was like multi-families would live there. There was this one that we went in the compound, and it seemed like there was like 3 or 4 different houses in there. And it had like a big gate that we went in, and you'd see people like all at like one house. It seemed like congregated, like they weren't like spread out like throughout the time of the day, basically, I guess I could say.
Sure.
But yeah, the compounds were pretty interesting because they'd have big gates and walls around and be like all by themselves, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I imagine that was probably in the south of the city is what I remember. I remember the compounds that had multi-structures in them were all in the south. And then the north was like, in the north was more like once you got outward north, northeast-ish, that was where you got like the 2-story, they almost look like palaces. They would have like the Romanesque columns and like really elaborate decorations. what always
Mhm.
struck me was and again, I didn't go into as many houses as either one of you, but the ones that I did go into, they're just there. Every room didn't have furniture in it. It's just such a weird thing as an American, right?
Yeah.
If I go into a house in America, usually there's too much shit everywhere, and they were the opposite, right? They would have like,
Yeah, no, there's always there's never very much stuff in there.
yeah, never very much
It
stuff.
seemed
There'd be
like.
like one room that would have stuff, and the rest would have like one or two things, if anything.
But yeah, like I said, but they were very clean. With as much dust and dirt and stuff like that.
That's a good point.
They
Yeah.
spent a lot of time to keep that stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah, probably a full-time job. It was a full-time job for us. I imagine it was for them too.
Yeah. And that was the thing, like when we were in the neighborhoods, that's the biggest thing I remember is the smell. Because a lot of the sewage would go like right into the streets.
Yep.
And we'd be driving through, especially in the earlier times when we're like, that's not water. Because it would just be pooled up in the streets. And it was like all the kind of the sewer runoff because all the houses just had a little pipe that in some of the areas that came out and just fed into the street basically. And that's where that was where we were glad that we were on a vehicle patrol. We were just like, thank God we're not walking through that.
Yeah. Driving through it was bad enough. It'd splash all over your truck.
Oh yeah. But it was just, that's one thing I remember the worst. And then we would do a lot of the patrols when we would go way out to the landfill because they were always burning the trash out there. And I don't know if they just permanently were burning tires as well, but it just always stunk so bad when we'd have to patrol. And there was like a dam that was like not too far away from there as well.
Yeah, that's
that we would set up.
Yeah, that's where the Haditha Dam would start right there. Or the Habanilla Dam, not Haditha, Habanilla Dam. Yeah.
We'd set up on there because we were trying to see if we could catch people like setting up like IEDs on the road, basically. So we try and get off like far enough and sit out there for like half a day or something like that.
You're talking about kind of sitting out and watching things and
yeah, we were trying to just sit and watch and get low, and just see if we could come up with different tactics to try and catch people doing stuff. I don't think we saw anybody, but we also figured that
you just read my mind. That was my next question. Did you ever catch anybody?
I don't think so.
I
remember we had a vehicle. I remember we had a checkpoint set up one time though, and I was off on like the back side of it, and there was a group that was set up to patrol and stop and like check vehicles and stuff like that. And there was this one car that he didn't stop, and he tried to blow through, and they lit him up. Like, yeah, and they were like, stop. He didn't. He just kept going. So yeah, that one got lit up.
That one specifically was the poor guy. He the short version of it is that he didn't have any brakes.
Yeah,
and so
I don't think he died.
That's the reason why he no, he
didn't. No, I don't think he died.
No, I was on the contact. I was on the contact team, and that poor bastard. When he was, I don't know how. I mean, he got hit several times. He got hit in both his hands got shot up. He got hit in the shoulder. He got a big old chunk of his leg taken out, and he fell out of the truck when we opened it up, and he was still alive, and we patched him up. And I was yelling at him. I was like, why didn't you stop? Why didn't you stop? And anyways, it figured out finally that he was like,
I think there was like 3 or 4 people. Yeah, I think there were 3 or 4 people shooting at him too.
Well, there was quite a few.
It wasn't like one. Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, there'd be stuff like that. And then I remember there was a night patrol when we went out, and it had to be. I'm trying to think of like what there was one of those like LAV was it the LAV platoon? I think they had one where they went out and someone got lit up on a patrol, and we went there, and there was a car, and I mean, I just remember it was more bullets in that car than I'd ever seen. More bullet holes. Like there was more holes than metal left on that thing.
So very specifically, and just to pinpoint when that was June 7th, and that was General Mattis's LAV escort. And they
okay, yep.
It was on Racetrack Road. They got hit by an IED. And I only know because our platoon went out with your platoon as well to respond to that. And you're right, that they fired everything, including the 25 millimeter main guns.
Yeah,
of those LAVs. Yeah. There was holes in everything everywhere.
Yeah, that's my time I was like, that is Swiss cheese, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Yep. That ended up being a big deal later. I don't know if you had ever heard that, but several of us had to be questioned and testify about what we saw that night because
no, I never heard of anything after that. But I just remember going out there, and my truck was like kind of like right next to it. Once we got out, and we were people setting security, basically.
Yeah. It also I don't know. I don't know whatever actually came of it, but the rumor was that that General Mattis was basically like sneaking through the city. Like they had not called out that they were in the middle of our city. And so we didn't even know they were there. And so when our QRFs responded, I mean, we were late to the party because we didn't even know you were there. Otherwise there would have been somebody out there, and somebody who staged.
There were always some of those high level ones that thought that they were going to go and like just kind of do their own thing.
Yeah.
And I know Booker had his own thing. Like he went out on some of those on his own sometimes.
Yeah. His own secret squirrel missions. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm trying to remember what the name of that. And I wish I could. You'll know as soon as I do. But the name of the reporter that came out with us. He was on Fox News. Oliver North. Yeah, I was driving him around one of the days when he came out, and that was pretty cool. So we drove him out to all the different like checkpoints and stuff like that, and all the bases, and drove him around the area. So, and that was the second time actually that I met him, because we trained with him, or we did some training at an Air Force base before we deployed as well.
We did
with some I think with some British like RAF soldiers that were out there training with us.
Yeah, I
can't
remember if they're RAF or what they were, but
or something like that. I know there was some type of like British.
They're definitely British,
like special forces or something like that.
Yeah. Right. That's very accurate. Yeah, March Air Force Base. We did in their old abandoned officers housing. We did some pre-deployment training, and Oliver North came out and videotaped it and put it on Fox News. That he didn't do any of that footage until after we were in contact, which was interesting.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. When I took a picture with him and got to talk to him a lot that day, because I was driving and he was in the back, and I think Gunny Cook was with us and stuff. So that was pretty interesting to meet him.
Yeah, he tell you anything interesting? He's a Vietnam era Marine. He's got a lot of stories.
I just remember he was really down to earth, really nice. He just asked us like, how's everything going for us basically out here? I just wanted to know basically kind of what life was like. If we'd been in any engagements, we've been getting hit with a lot of like IEDs at that time. So it was just about that type of stuff. So, but otherwise, yeah, he was super nice. Took pictures with everybody and just told us just how much he appreciated that we were there and what we were doing. So he was just a really nice, really down to earth guy.
Yeah, cool. Any of those other escort missions strike you? I know we took out all kinds of people, like the Lioness teams, and we took out other high values and other reporters. I always thought that was interesting how many tourists we ended up having.
Yeah. Let's see. there was this one where something happened and we had to escort this ambulance like halfway across the city. And I can't remember what it was for, but I don't know if it was an Iraqi ambulance, if it was one of, it had to have been, because we didn't have any like regular ambulances.
Not that I know of, no.
Yeah, but no, there was definitely one where we had to escort an ambulance that had to like get across the city. It must have had somebody that was under threat or danger, because we had a escort before and after them. But so that was interesting. And we do a lot of patrols. I remember always thought it was interesting when we do like night patrols. And I remember there's this one night in particular where we were tracking somebody that had set off an IED or fired some mortars or rockets at night or something like that. But they were coordinating with the helicopters above and coordinating like the ground crew. And I remember they had him in the sights, but I feel like he got away. But that was just pretty interesting of like hearing because I think it was like a Cobra attack helicopter, like a Cobra attack helicopter or something like that. That was like spotting from above.
Yeah.
And directing us where to go. Because I feel like we were in these big like pine groves basically. Because there's some of those just basic, there's big giant groves of pine trees that people would run in and hide in basically. So that was a really nice, really interesting night patrol that we were on, I remember.
Yeah, we had so many different integrated missions. Right, that sounds like you're describing like a JTAC officer, but I don't remember ever having a JTAC officer, but it could be. It could have been one of the Delta guys too. It's always hard to tell because there's all kinds of people that came with us that like coordinated air and coordinated like long before the era of drones. Like obviously drones are everywhere now in the news, but that we had the one of the Delta guys.
I remember that we did have drones at the time, obviously, but not to the level that we have of now, you know.
No. I mean, even I was back in country in 2008, 2009. And in 2009, there were drones and they would just like punch it up on a screen like they were ordering McDonald's, and they could give you a picture of anywhere in the city in 3 seconds. Like it was
wow.
Yeah, like it just the night and day just into the 5-year time frame. So yeah, it's very, very interesting the difference of the level of aerial intel that we were able to get.
Mm-hmm. And I remember one big one, as I remember when we had to go meet or somebody, it might have been like one of the generals or something like that, but we went to I feel like it was the downtown like city center of Ramadi, basically that compound.
Yeah.
And we spent almost like the whole day there because somebody was in negotiations like with like the mayor or the governor of the city or something like that.
Yeah.
So I remember we kind of went up and we had some people posted on the roof and in other like areas overlooking basically like that city area.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that in particular because it was short. It must have been right before we left, because I remember hearing that like shortly after we left, and it might have even been like when we were leaving, but our relief platoon or company that was like taken over, I think they had some people like based in there, and we turned our vehicles over to them basically. And I think a bunch of them got bombed or blown up in that city center, like on the way out or something like that. And there's one in particular I was like, well, I think one of them was my trucks that got blown up or something like that. But I remember they got hit pretty hard. Like I feel like when we were on our way out, or like right after we changed over or something like that.
If I'm aligning what you're saying correctly, you're talking about the government center, and I remember I remember the mission. We were there for goddamn the entire day.
Yeah.
And we kept rotating. I mean, we had its rotation for the different spots that we were doing. But then I think what you're talking about for the second one was one of the last days that the guys that were stayed behind because the government center got attacked really heavily, and a lot of those trucks were shot up pretty good because as we were exfilling people, they were taking some pretty intense hits. And I know the truck that I went out in has all the tires they were running on run flats, and all the windows had been basically shot out. Well, they weren't shot out; they were bulletproof, glass, but they had been hit, and so that was a lot of those trucks were not in good shape at the end of that day.
You had
and that reminds me of one also, like when I don't think it was at Abrams, because I don't think those ever took too much damage, but one of the Army, there was an Army tank that got tracks blown off or something like that. And we had to go out one time and post security for that.
Yep.
And they had to wait for like basically the tank tow truck to come
the Hercules
and hook up to it.
Yeah,
the Hercules. I just remember they just dragged that thing through the street and it just
destroyed the road.
Hole.
Yep. I do remember that.
I did not believe that it was just dragging that. Oh man, what was that? The Bradley. It was a Bradley, I think.
Yeah, it was a Bradley, and if I remember correctly, it didn't get the track blown off; it just broke, but they had no way to fix it, and not out there, and so they just drug it back and destroyed the street. Yeah,
that was great because I think they were like trying to, and they're like, forget it, just drag it back.
Yeah, that was when
that
at least for me, that was when I had like an amazing amount of level of respect for that damn Hercules. Because I don't know how much that Bradley weighs, but it's got to be 20 tons or whatever it is. And it didn't even care.
And it just pulled it like nothing.
Just pulled it like nothing. Didn't even look like it was straining or anything. Just dragging it. Wow, that's fucking nuts.
Yeah. Just the loudest grinding.
Yep.
That I couldn't believe. And there's nothing that slowed that thing down.
That's funny. I forgot about that till you mentioned that. But yeah, they destroyed that road. And I remember all of us saying they're going to bury an IED right in that destroyed part of the road tomorrow and patch over. Yeah.
And then another recovery mission we had to go on is there was a team, I think it might have been from like Echo Company, either Echo or Golf, but they had a Humvee that was going like full bore, and they smashed into like a sedan or something like that and just crushed the car. And we had to go out and post security and get that. And I remember seeing that little car. There was nothing left of that. Like half the car was gone. And I remember that was like a big incident because I think some locals died in that. Nobody was living through that.
Was that one of the ones where the XO had to give money, and then he was like, "How much money do you give?"
Probably
dead people.
There's probably a good chance of that because I know they had to, because it's something like the Humvee was, they was going full speed or something, and they pulled out and something happened, and the Humvee just creamed that car. Yeah, and there was like nothing left of it.
Yeah, it's guaranteed to happen.
That's wild. Yeah, we had a lot of, and unfortunately, but we hit a lot of cars and people and stuff like that while we were.
I was surprised sometimes that we didn't hit more, because when we'd be going through like patrols in like the daytime, especially in like the market and stuff like that, some of those streets were so narrow, and there'd be other cars like right next to us, like literally like inches away from us. And we probably lost some mirrors here and there, but I remember like it was basically like stuck in traffic, kind of trying to get through that stuff. And and that's the thing. Just everybody was everywhere. Yeah. So, and then ours was an open, like my truck had an open back, but it just had the big side rail armor, the up armor side rails that we put on there, basically.
Yep.
Like at first they were just pieces of sheet metal that we welded on there.
Yeah.
And And then we finally got the actual ones, but I think the sheet metal ones were thicker than the actual new replacement ones that we got because they weren't that thick.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, was it Echo? I think it was Echo where a Marine got hit by a Humvee, right? And got killed.
Oh,
It was almost at the end of the deployment, but I remember like being called for QRF.
golf.
It might have been. I truly don't remember. I just remember being called for QRF. And we were on our way, but we never made it. They waved us off. They're like, we already took care of it.
Did they get hit at night during like a patrol? Because sometimes it was kind of hard to see. I have no idea.
I think so. I think he was either laying in the middle of the road or standing in the middle of the road and got hit. But yeah,
there was one time when we were on a night patrol and we were set up on a road and just sitting with our night goggles, and we were posted, and another company's vehicle patrol was out. I don't remember who it was because we didn't really talk to them that much. But as they're coming up, we could only just barely hear them. And then I looked over and saw them in my NVGs, and I was like, "Oh shit, there's a Humvee coming!" So we had to quick like turn the lights on, but it was really close to them almost hitting us because we couldn't hear and I couldn't see them until we like looked, and they were coming like right towards us. And luckily, I turned our full lights on at the time, so I could see and stopped. And then they got pissed at us. They're like, "What the fuck are you doing out here? Like, we're supposed to be on patrol." Like, think there was like a breakdown of that. They didn't know that we were going to be posted there because it was supposed to be like coordinated, I believe.
Yeah.
But there was something that they didn't know we were going to be there, and obviously we didn't know that they were out, and they were just driving, and we were kind of set up. So after that, we came up because sometimes it was kind of a pain in the ass to turn those lights on because you had to squeeze two things together and like turn it.
And it worked
to
about
get
half
to get the light to turn on. Yeah. So what we did is we came up with a thing where we like tied two like kind of strings together with like a stick or something like that. So that like kept them together.
Nice.
So we could just quickly turn it if something was coming, because that was the thing. Like it was those, it's not just a switch that you turn the lights on those things. There was two little things you had to press and turn at the same time to turn the lights on. So then after that, we're like, okay, we need to have a faster way to turn the lights on in a quick emergency like that. Otherwise, someone was going to get hit by a Humvee.
I don't know
that was an avoided thing.
I don't know if every single interview we've done has had a story about how calm was a shit show, but that could be the subtitle for the whole deployment is calm was a shit show all the time. Always. Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember that because we were like, holy shit, somebody could have gotten seriously hurt, but we luckily quickly like avoided that. But that's why I was wondering if it happened at night, because sometimes you couldn't see, and if you can hear, you don't always know where it's coming from, because when it was dark, it was pitch black.
Oh yeah.
Out there, and if you didn't know exactly where you're looking with your NVGs on, you couldn't see anything, and hearing it, you couldn't really pick too much up from that, because we're the only ones out there, because it was a complete, as I remember, it was pretty much a complete lockdown. Nobody was allowed out at night unless they had like special like permission, or they were going to the hospital or something like that. But it was a complete curfew that night for the locals when we were out there.
Yeah, and the curfew went up and down, which also was weird. Like we instituted like 100% curfew in the beginning, and then randomly in the middle, it was like, okay, like you could drive whatever, like you said, you could drive to the hospital, or if you were driving to work, it'd be okay. And so everybody had the same story. I am going to work. Like, where do you work? And they're like, over there. Like, And then like we went back to 100% curfew in the middle of the summer. And then it was like, kill anybody who violates the curfew for like 4 or 5 days. And then, that was, the rules were always changing with that one too, which was super strange.
Well, because then you never believed anything anybody told you because they
Yeah.
sounded like they're lying with everything they ever said.
Yeah.
Because the answer was always the same,
Yeah.
like you said, and it always sounded the same. And then they always acted like they had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
And we're like bullshit. You know what the fuck's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, man. The cultural difference was so huge that I always like I erred on the side of caution of not like killing every single person we ever met, but
Uh-huh.
boy, man, you really wanted to. You're like, you
Yeah,
just
because
see,
you're
you
like
all
also
seem
like
shady.
you're like, how dumb are you? You know, like what the fuck are you doing out here?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they'd all be like, "Oh, I don't," and act like nobody had any idea what was going. Oh, I didn't know. Like nobody knows anything,
Right.
and it was always the same exact answer. So you never
Yep.
believed anybody, and
Yeah. Yeah.
most of them probably were lying. They were lying. Of course, they were lying, because everybody knew what we were doing, and everybody knew we were there. You know,
Yeah.
there's no secrets.
We talked a little about hooch life, but not too much. You remember anything funny that happened around the camp or in the hooch? I mean, you guys, like
um,
81's was a cast of characters, so
yeah, I remember we got our hands on a taser. And we wanted to see what it'd be like to tase each other.
nice.
And that was fun.
Good.
Yeah,
Love
so everybody was just like, oh, how does it feel like? And like, oh, let me try it in the water. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
That was good
Um,
times. That was good times.
yeah, and let's see, and that's when we learned that Mustard could bend all the way down to his toes. And Hersher was like, "Oh man, if I could do that."
Yeah.
I don't know how you did it, Mustard, but yeah, you could bend all the way down.
Yep.
I was very bendy.
Yeah, yeah. And let's see. Oh man, I remember for a little while. I feel like we had plumbing in the hooch for a little while because there was a bathroom in there, but I don't think it
Right.
worked for a long time. But then towards the end, those porta shitters got completely full, and yeah, they were coming out all the way over the top,
Yep.
and yeah, it was not pretty in there, but you didn't really have a choice.
That's right.
And yeah, because there was I think there was a crew of like that they contracted with the Iraqis that was supposed to come and clean them,
There
and then
was.
they just stopped. Yeah.
Well,
And
to my recollection, we killed one of them, and then one of them, I don't remember the story for sure. Either he stopped coming because he got threatened, or the insurgents killed him. One or the other.
yeah,
But
we figured it was. I figured it was like something like that.
yeah,
Yeah, people usually stopped coming for a reason,
yeah,
or either they felt they were in danger, or they died, or they were threatened that they were gonna die if they did come. It's
Yep.
usually one of the three things.
It was the same with our original DVD guy. He ended up getting killed too.
Oh
So
man, I bought a lot of those DVDs. Yeah, he'd be posted up right now, and I probably still have them somewhere.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, because I remember, yeah, I did end up buying, yeah, a DVD player. I think eventually, because for the longest time I didn't want to like spend any money and get into that habit and like waste it because I'm like, some people were buying them nonstop. Like
Yeah.
whenever that guy came, they'd come back with a stack of them.
Yeah.
But then eventually, and I didn't want to just waste money on that stuff because I'm like, I want to have money when I go back home because I didn't have any money before I went out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was tax free. That was the biggest benefit is suddenly you weren't paying taxes on your income.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I came back and I had a good amount of money when I came back, and that was nice, and it lasted for a long time. But let's see.
So we just to jog your memory on a couple, I don't I mean if any of these cause a memory, but I know we spent a lot of time at the police station and at the hospital just holding posts. And And again, we talked about that earlier, but we did a lot of escorts. My God, we had reporters.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I don't know if either one of those popped up a specific memory.
No, well, I do remember, we had to run out, and one of the IED people, what was that bomb? EOD.
Yeah.
EOD. They had a guy that one of the bombs went off like while he was checking for one, and it blew off either one of his legs or and the half of him. I think he lost a leg and like a nut or something like that. But we had to rush him to a hospital because they were doing like airlift flight out. And I remember I was one of the people that was holding on to, because they'd have like 4 people hold on to one of the corners there. And had to run him from the back of the Humvee to the helo because he was in bad shape. But I think he made it though. But yeah, I remember that because I think he was probably one of the front guys because they had, regular stuff that went out and checked on it, but some of the guys just had like metal detectors basically.
Yeah.
I think, and I could be wrong, but I think what you're remembering is the engineer, one of the 2 engineers that got hit by the IED that they found with a metal detector.
Yeah. It definitely was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, the EOD teams actually had bomb suits. Not that would have stopped an IED from taking off a limb.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of those guys getting
That's
killed.
wasn't sure because I thought EOD had people like attached to him, but if it was one of the engineers, I wasn't sure. I just knew it was like something like that, where some of the regular routes that we took, that would be regularly, rigged.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one of the big rush escort ones to the hospital and the airlift that we took out there. So that was one of the big ones I remembered pretty well.
Well, do you kind of remember the wind down and getting home, what it felt like to actually come home?
Yeah. I remember when we first got back. Well, actually, I'll start with I think we took like a big 747 or a 757 back.
Yeah.
And I remember that was the biggest plane I'd ever seen. And I think we were like the only ones on it. And I think we actually, we didn't get any really much service, but I remember there was actually like flight attendants on it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because when we went out, we were mostly on like DC-10s or something like that. Like cargo planes, like when we went out.
Those specifically were C-141 Starlifters, which they don't even use anymore. They got decommissioned about a year and a half after we flew on them because they were falling apart.
They were falling apart because we got stranded, and I think it was at one of the Air Force bases for a couple days because there was jet fuel pouring all over the runway.
Yeah.
And I think I heard later that one of the engines cut out while we were flying, or they had some kind of engine problem while we were going, and because I think it got quiet, and people were like, "Oh, it's not as loud." And then we heard later that they were definitely having engine trouble when we were on the way because they had to make a landing, and we were supposed to be out the next day, and I think we were there for 2 or 3 days or something like that.
Yeah, the flight home, I don't remember the size of the plane, but you're right. That was a big ass commercial plane. Now you might have slept the whole way home, but they did serve food and drinks. They had cocktails.
Oh, yeah, no, I think I was out the entire time. I don't think I ate any of that stuff.
Yeah, I think they gave everybody one cocktail that was awake. So
yeah, no, I don't think I was awake.
Yeah, nice.
Because I remember getting on there, and I was flying out, and then I maybe even just either fell asleep or blocked it out because I was just so tired.
Yeah.
But I just remember when I got on there, was like, oh, this is so comfortable. This is a nice plane.
I mean, quite literally, it was probably the nicest thing you had sat in for 8 months
Oh,
straight. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that
Hilarious.
was the biggest remember that I was like, oh my God, I'm not on like a military vehicle or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's nice. And I remember the flight attendants, they were so excited to like, have us on the plane and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I just remember they were so nice and so happy and thanked us so much. Like when we got off and stuff like that, and said that it was like a pleasure to have us on there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then I remember just like when we got back and we were in those hangars and some of the people's like family members were there and stuff like that, that met us when we finally were able to like meet when we actually got to like California. And that was really cool. Just to like see how happy people were then that they're like family members that were able to meet them there and stuff like that. I remember that was really special.
I take it, by the way, you're saying that no one met you when we
No, I didn't have anybody there. No, because I didn't live in California. I mean, I lived obviously
right.
Pendleton, but my family didn't live like anywhere close to that or anything like that, and I wasn't married or anything like that. So, but it was nice. And then we got back, and I remember we had like a big party, back at big like welcome back party when we actually got back to San Mateo, and they had a bunch of kegs and stuff like that.
Yep.
And cookouts and stuff like that. Some of the cookouts, not just from like Ramadi, but when we were like, when we were in, we were at Mount Fuji, we did that training out there. I think we were there for like a month or something like that.
Yeah.
And some of those cookouts that we had there were some of my favorites of just like the after and downtime and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's funny how much you hated the mandatory fun time when you were like, made to go do something.
Yeah.
But it is very fond memories.
But so, yeah, can't think of too much more.
Okay. Well, we can put a bow on it. That's I've been asking everybody close to everybody the same kind of question.
Yeah.
It was a lot of years ago.
Any specific like final closing questions you have or anything like that, or?
Yeah, man. It's been a lot of years, been 22 years. When you look back on all this, what does it mean to you? Either this deployment or your Marine Corps service or all together? And what do you tell people about it?
I tell people it really, just the Marine Corps in general, it taught me like how to be like, I felt like a man and a person when I went in. I was 20. I turned 21 in boot camp because, and I didn't really have any idea like what I wanted to do. And I think that's a lot of people that kind of go in and become a grunt because you don't know what the hell you want to do. Like,
sure.
What else am I going to do? But that teaching me how to be just a decent human being. You appreciate, I think you appreciate things a lot more. And I still think about like that there's always people trainings. Like when we're here, there's someone training somewhere, or there's somebody on some mission somewhere out in the world. And especially with all the stuff that's going on in like Iran and stuff like that. And been hearing like the 31st MEU and the South Pacific. I think they were sending people over there.
Yeah. So
it kind of gives me like a perspective of what we were kind of feeling like when we were on ship on the Essex.
Yeah.
That we were in that position where now we're here and there's a new group of guys that are kind of going through and got that same thing kind of going on of like uncertainty in their head. So I feel like a kind of a connection with that kind of stuff, Yeah.
Very good. If you ever want to feel a deep connection, look for the blackest rain cloud, and that's probably an 81 platoon underneath that rain cloud. That's where they're training.
Yep, steel rain, steel rain. Oh man, some of those fire missions that we would go on, and we'd be out there for like a week or something like that. At the time, it was the worst. You know, you'd never been dirtier, you'd never been smellier. Especially when we did that hike. I think it was like it was 23 or 24 mile hike back from SOI.
Yeah.
And then we ended up doing like First Sergeant's Hill, and got back with like midnight or midnight or something like that. I've never been more tired from something like that and that hike. But then afterwards, like, it's one of the best memories of doing like a hike and stuff. You just feel like you're gonna die the entire time, but you just keep going, and then you always have that in the back of your head that like you did that. Especially when we were out for the last reunion, looking up there, we're like, oh, I remember how many hikes I've stood up on top of First Sergeant's Hill, and how they've really turned it into a memorial up there now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing.
Because there was none of that memorial stuff before.
Nope.
No, it was.
Yep. Even on the ground, there was none of the memorial garden type stuff. They got all the stuff for the Vietnam, and then there was none of that stuff. And it's really turned into a tradition of them going up there. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, the only two memorials in the area were the Hand of Hope, and there was a memorial out at Camp Talega when we used to do the runs out to Talega. That was it.
Yeah,
there was nothing else.
But yeah, seeing what they've like done with it, and they have a tradition of like bringing was it the cross and the flag up there and stuff like that, and
yeah, man. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, that stuff really just made it special, and seeing all that and thinking back and having that camaraderie with any and everybody that we can still come back and talk about this, and thank God the ones that are here that are safe, and missing to remember the ones that aren't, you know. R.I.P. Jamie. I miss him so much when I think about, because he was my roommate for a long time, and coming back. I don't know if did you know Jamie pretty well?
Oh yeah,
everybody knew McLeod.
Oh yeah. Obviously, no. I would come back and he'd be like, you know how much he liked his dick, and he'd be like, does my dick look big right now? And he's standing in front of the mirror in the room, like. I mean, he'd have shorts on, but he'd like, that looks big, doesn't it? That looks big, right?
It's pretty good.
And I'm like, Jamie, what are you doing? He's like, but it looks nice, don't it? Yeah, dude, so just that type of stuff, and the people that didn't make it and stuff like that. I mean, they'll always be remembered.
Yeah.
And missed and stuff like that. So yeah, the friendships and the camaraderie and just remembering everything, and you have that for a lifetime, I feel like.
That's absolutely true. And I really appreciate you spending some time with us, recounting what you remember of 22 years ago.
Yeah, it is nice to get like a refresher, and they're like, oh yeah, it was actually at this time. And I'm like, yeah, it definitely was, because it kind of gets a little hazy sometimes.
Yeah,
but talking about it now, like, really kind of brings back in a good way. Like I said, I think a lot of us had our own kind of stumps and falling down and stuff like that, and trying to find our way into like civilian life and what we were gonna do and how to act like normal human beings. And
I'm still figuring that out, but
yeah, it's all to the people around us that kind of keep us in perspective and stuff like that. But we're still here, so we made it. Yeah. But I appreciate you guys having me on. Like I told,
thank you.
If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe for future episodes on your favorite podcast service.